I am just eat, sleep, breathing, food 24/7. I am just soaking it in. Nobody comes into my radar unscathed as far as, oh, you're Greek, oh, your mum a good cook, granny a good cook, oh, what's her signature dish? Next minute the plumber's writing down the spanakopita recipe or giving me, granny's mobile telephone number. Like, I am just getting it everywhere that I can.
From a childhood fossicking for mushrooms and baking with her grandmothers in the Hunter Valley, to an early career as a cake queen, and now to a many-faceted food business based in Sydney, Simmone Logue's story speaks to the huge variety of pathways in hospitality, cooking and catering. It's a pleasure to welcome you to Dirty Linen today, Simmone.
Oh, Dani, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You do so many different things, and it's all around the joy of cooking, creating, gathering people around the table, which I couldn't relate to more. I just love all that stuff. But yeah, tell us a bit about what you're up to at the moment, and then back into your tasty history.
Oh, of course. So I suppose I could say that all of my dreams are coming true professionally right now. So I've always been known for my cakes and then later on my savoury pastry range. But my dream has always been to stretch outside of those genres and really encapsulate what home dinners mean for many people, about bringing, I suppose, home-style country food to the table along with convenience. Because I know that people are so busy, with families, with work, with going to the gym, with all the commitments that we have to be fabulous. It's just so lovely to be the person to be able to bring the quality of food that they might be able to cook at home if they had the time. And so I've just had this amazing opportunity now to step outside of my sort of usual genres and create home dinners for one, slow cooked for two, a beautiful soup range, and roll along the eastern seaboard with Woolies and others, along with my patisserie as well, my lovely pies and quiches. So, yeah, I just feel, my goodness, this is what I've been working towards for the past 30 years, and it's very exciting that I've come to this point.
So good. And tell us about Essington Park, because, I know that's a big part of what you're about at the moment.
Yeah, well, Essington Park is where I call home. Mostly at the moment I come here on the weekends because work doesn't allow for more time. I'm very busy in town. But I discovered this beautiful home in a little town called Oberon about 25 years ago with my twin sister, Joanna Logue. She's a very famous landscape painter. We stumbled across Essington Park, and because we're country girls, we come from a little town called Muswellbrook in the Hunter Valley. Once you've grown up in the country, you never lose that. And we fell in love with Essington Park. We were driving along the road. Joanna was out here painting some plein air, and there was a for sale sign on the gate, and in we came, and we fell in love, Dani, and then we scraped the bottom of the barrel, begged, borrowed, stole to raise the money to buy Essington, and it's been the most beautiful adventure. And, we restored it. And I suppose Essington has been like the custard that sort of held myself and my siblings together. This is where a lot of our culinary ideas come from, because, we come here and basically the kitchen is the heart of the house. I'm sitting here right now by the fire, and it's just so conducive to creative energy. And because we're all crazy mad foodies, this is the place where we come to fill up the well creatively.
Oh, I just love this. I've just got this vision of you and your sister as kids, in the country, and, muddy knees and dirty hands, and, picking fruit and all the different things, and then taking your creativity in different directions, but then coming together to build this, I guess it sounds just like a creative paradise, so rich. Can you talk about, the ways that your sister as a landscape artist and yourself as a cook relate to landscape and the different things that you're able to draw upon for your various arts?
Well, I suppose when we were little, we were always out fossicking, gathering, fishing. Our granny taught us we called it going crouching, taught us how to catch crayfish with a bit like a dirty old bit of meat in the end of an old pair of pantyhose on the end of a stick. And so we have the land and all that it brings and offers up pumping through our veins. Joanna went down the painting the landscape route, and I went down the finding inspiration from the garden, from the orchard, to use seasonally in my cooking. But Joanna is sometimes, my brother and I laugh that, and both Andy Logue and myself are in the food business, but we laugh and we say that we think that Joanna Logue is a better cook than all of us put together. And I think it's because as kids, even though we didn't realize it, we were just sort of soaking it in via osmosis, and we really knew where our food was coming from, and it was a real adventure. And, we'd jump on our bikes early in the morning, and back in those days, your mum, you didn't see your mum again till she was calling you for tea. How times have changed. We'd just be off on these wild adventures. And I'm sure that is definitely why we've all arrived at where we are today, and how the three of us really inspire each other. We're incredibly close, and we really inspire each other on a daily basis. It's really beautiful.
I love that. Well, how did you go from this, dirty meat on the end of a stick wrapped in a stocking to your first forays in the food world? Like, how did that come about?
Well, I suppose I am extremely entrepreneurial as well. I have that gene. My dad is very entrepreneurial, and as kids growing up, I suppose we saw his fearlessness, we saw his entrepreneurialism, we saw that, he never felt that he couldn't take on something, any crazy idea, and make it happen. And I really believe that sort of thing is quite hereditary. So, and it was quite late in my time that I came to this idea, even though food had always been a passion, just at home, cooking and sharing and, getting ideas and great Caligula style feasts. I just had this sort of burning desire to create something in business, and so I had to dig really deep and work out what is my passion, because I think that is a real key to success. I know it might sound cliche, but I really do believe that if you're incredibly passionate about something, and then you throw the entrepreneurial spirit in and the drive and the will to work really, really hard, you're pretty well 99.9% there. You just needed a little sprinkle of luck in there as well. And so I decided that I would give it a go. I went to both of my grannies and pinched some of their cake recipes, and I started with one cake at home in my tiny little flat in Neutral Bay here in Sydney. I baked a hummingbird cake. It was out of like a 1979 Vogue Entertaining magazine, the hummingbird cake, which we still bake today and sell many of. I baked a hummingbird cake in my daggy little oven in my little flat, and I walked it up the hill to the nearest cafe. The cafe was Sophie's American Style Deli there in Neutral Bay, and I sold the cake for $20. And
wow, love that.
And then it just bloody took off. Like I found a niche. I found the niche where business owners, cafes, delis, restaurants, I suppose it's a bit like what's happening today in the industry where talent is really hard to find because we have a shortage of people. Everybody's trying to battle for the same pool of talent, and it was more economical for them to buy a beautiful homemade beautiful cake or dessert and cut it into 12 pieces, make great margin without the heartache of staff and trying to find the expertise. And I hit the nail on the head, Dani. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I created? It was just like a total mess in the kitchen. I was like, oh my God, I have to get out of here. I need to find a little kitchen. And so then one day I was delivering a cake to East Balmain, to a little cafe in my bomby little Honda Civic, smoking at the back, smoking at the front. I had to climb over to the passenger door to get out because the driver's door wouldn't open. It was just like, and I saw as I was driving up the road an old butcher shop, TJ's Quality Meat for lease, LJ Hooker. And so I called them up and I rented the old butcher shop. And that's really how, it started. I bought an oven, an industrial mixer. My family came to help. Everyone, all the people, all my darling ones that are close to me came and helped. And it just went from strength to strength. And I started to build my brand. And that's what happened. Yeah, it was. And I was fearless, just like my dad. And I was positive, just like my mum. My mum is the most positive person. So I think I got the good genes out of both of them, So a great idea, a passion for cooking, the entrepreneurial spirit from my dad, and the positive vibes from my mum, and it's a winning formula.
What kind of businesses did your dad craft?
Oh, everything. He was one of those, he was the kind of guy that, like, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, he's kind of looking at the couch thinking, well, I think I'll reupholster that. So we'll get out my mum's sewing machine and reupholster the couch, never having used a sewing machine before. Like, that's my dad, So just totally, fearless and believing in himself, no doubts. I think that really is key. He was in publishing. We lived in a little town called Muswellbrook in Hunter, as I said, and he founded the Hunter Valley News, which was the free rag. And I just remember how hard he worked and how everyone rallied around him, friends and family, to deliver that paper every week. He'd be driving along in his Leyland P76, throwing the papers out the window into people's yards, and he ended up selling that to the Chronicle, which was the paper that you had to buy in town. But, just witnessing that sort of determination and drive when you're little, I think just really sets you in good stead,
Yeah, absolutely. And as a former paper, I was a girl, but I thought of myself as a paper boy. As a former paper boy, I do respect anyone who can neatly throw a newspaper into a front yard. I certainly took a lot of pride in being able to aim right to the doormat.
Good on you.
There must have been, lots of ups and downs in your business. And yeah, I really love that origin story with the hummingbird cake. It, really love it. Tell us about some of the ups and downs of your business as it took its twists and turns.
Yeah, well, look, when I was I sort of look at my culinary career and my business career as, toddler, teenager, grown-up person. So I'm grown up now. And when I was a toddler, I'm talking about those butcher shop days, and then I moved uptown into Balmain proper and rented a shop where I started to wholesale out the back and retail in the front. And it was just incredibly successful because it was before the days that you could go into a supermarket and buy a home dinner like what I'm now selling into the grocery sector. And so I had a line of people coming into that store for 10, 15 years, coming to get that dinner that I had put the love in and nurtured so that they could take it home to their family. And it was incredibly successful. The money was rolling in, and then I think this is a very good lesson for everyone that's starting a new business. Many do not succeed, as you would know. There's only a small percentage of people that start off in a small business that continue on or don't fold within the first year or two. So I think for me, you can get a little bit too big for your boots and spread yourself a little bit too thin. And what I did was I then opened a restaurant and another store in Paddington. And I think with the food industry, it's very important to, I have a saying, it's the best fertilizer for the land is the footprint of the owner. And I think when you spread yourself thin, the business misses the footprint of the owner. And so that was a very good lesson, because what happens, then I got to my teenage business person, and I feel that I was in this spinning my wheels, like making money, but not the discipline or the omnipresence that I needed in each store wasn't there. So you can get into this danger zone. I call it like the middle zone, where, it's you're making the money, but you're not making the profit, So then I had a big decision to make. Do I truncate down back to the toddler, where I have my one shop and I can nurture the business as I used to, or do I go really big? Because there's a thing, and it's called economy of scale. And because of my nature, I decided I'm going to go really big. And it was a really fantastic decision. but I needed money to do that. I needed to build a new factory. I needed some more trucks on the road. I needed to get my HACCP certification. And I couldn't just go to the bank and say, oh, hi, I'm Simmone Logue. I didn't have any security. I'd just been focusing on building my business for all of these years and not really building anything, bricks and mortar, Anyway, so I thought, how can I do this? And it was really the best thing that I have done in my professional career. I thought, what I have is a brand. I have a brand that I've built for 15 years. It's got to be worth something. So I put my feelers out and I sold 50% of the Simmone Logue brand to a small private equity firm. And it was amazing because the person that became my partner, he was a chartered accountant and he had great skills where I didn't, and I had great skills where he didn't. And we were like a professional marriage made in heaven. He brought financial disciplines into my business that allowed me then to fly creatively. And by selling half of the brand, it put money on the table for us to go forth and build our factory, a beautiful big kitchen, and then I could go and knock on the doors of Qantas Airlines and Woolworths and Harris Farms and really start to work in high volume. And we worked together for 12 years and it was just really a great, Dani, it was a great lesson and it was a great, I suppose, contribution to my career and the business. Yeah.
I mean, it's not just selling 50% of a business, it's your name. That is an enormous amount of, I suppose, trust that you're putting in that relationship. And I mean, it's awesome that it worked out. What was it that brought it to an end? Did you buy it back?
Oh no, it was my entrepreneurial spirit again. I wanted to jump again and go to a whole nother level. And that's when I wanted to go into dinner meals. I was just working in our pastry, making our beautiful pies and our quiches and our rolls. And I wanted to, as I said earlier in our conversation, I wanted to go into dinner meals and soups and go back to my origins. And, my partner and I, and we're very, very good friends and we have huge amount of respect for each other. He didn't share the vision and I didn't want him to hold me back. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go out there again and find like-minded, great manufacturers that have got capability to give me what I want. And he didn't want to come on the journey. And although he's still a very, very important confidant of mine and a mentor, and so he jumped out and I found Mr. David Beek, who is our chairman now of Beek and Johnston, and they have huge capability in lasagna, in soups, in dinner meals, and now together we are building a state-of-the-art pastry capability that nobody in this country has seen. So it was just another really beautiful and fantastic step for me to make. And so I've been with Beek and Johnston now coming up 4 years, and it's been just an amazing, supportive business relationship, and I've become very close friends with David Beek. He's mentoring me and he's the loveliest man. I'm very, very lucky.
What a story. So, I mean, you said you've been working together for the past 4 years. Obviously, the past 2 and a bit years have been pretty interesting. What sort of, I guess when I think about the parts of your business, which is, getting food to people in a non-restaurant sense, some of those businesses have done really well through COVID. I mean, can you talk about how you've navigated it?
Well, with COVID, there was a couple of silver linings for me. The first one was I have actually never given myself permission to stop and just take a bit of a break. And so when we had our first lockdown, I came to Essington Park and tapped into, I sort of took a little sabbatical and just tapped into my creative energy without all the business noise, and it was a real gift. Beacon Johnston were amazing support, because what happened was we hadn't fully integrated our businesses. I had my kitchen, or my large kitchen at Marrickville, and they were out at Greenacre. And overnight, I lost 50% of my revenue, which was the business I was doing with Qantas. As you can imagine, it just dried up. And so the other silver lining was I suppose it encouraged us to go into full swing integration, which we had sort of put a bit on the back burner. So Beacon Johnston wrapped their beautiful big culinary arms around me.
And so what did that mean from a business sense?
What it meant was they found a spot in their facility at Greenacre for the Simmone Logue pastry business. And so, that gave a lot of relief as far as overhead. So my objective was to just keep our heads above water over those 2 years, because losing 50% of your revenue, we automatically just had to focus on our overheads, And also then there was a spike of about 20 to 25% in our grocery business, which was another saviour. Yeah, so it was just a good news story, even though it slowed us up for a couple of years in, what our objectives were. It just sort of was good time to reset, rethink, integrate fully. And so it wasn't all bad, And now we're out the other side, and we're back on board with Qantas, and we're cranking along, and we've got our great rollout of all of our beautiful dinners and pastries along the eastern seaboard. We're working in Queensland and Victoria now, so it's just so exciting.
What do you think are some of the tricks you've found along the way to keep being successful in all the different ways that you are?
Look, I think the biggest ticket item is, for creative people like me, we need to force ourselves to know our numbers. And it's easy to get into a comfort zone of wanting to be downstairs in the kitchen putting pie lids on pies, and because that's where we feel most comfortable. But we, as technicians, we really need to get outside of our comfort zone and get upstairs into the office and understand your numbers, understand your overhead, understand your percentages, your food costs, your wages, and know what game you're in. Because at the end of the day, if you're not profitable, it's yes, we do it for love, but also we do it because we're building business, we're creating jobs, where we need to it needs to be sustainable. I think another big ticket item is surround yourself with people who have expertise in areas that you don't. And that was a classic example of what I did when I first sold that big chunk of the Simmone Logue brand, because I figured, I can spin my wheels, and all of nothing is nothing. 50% of something really big is fantastic. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes you need that help along the way. And it wasn't just the money that was put on the table. It was also the expertise and, the the feeling that I'm not on my own anymore. I had this amazing support and confidant and mentor, and I grew up so much, Dani, over that time, over those 12 years. I learned so much about business. I grew professionally, and that was great for my professional esteem. And there's no way I know that I would be where I am today without that. And then again, without the support with my wonderful partners at Beacon Johnston now, But I suppose in saying all that, we also need to, we can have all these amazing people around us, but at the end of the day, we have to tap into our intuition and our guts, our gut feeling, because I have to say every time that I have ignored my intuition professionally and personally, it's ended in disaster. And every time I've listened to my guts, it's ended favourably. So I think that is really important, to not be, yes, take on the advice, yes, listen to the experts, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, and the gut feel stops with you, and just to be fearless as well. Like, don't let your fears get in the way. Rise above it, and charge on. Put your rhino skin on and charge on.
Well, it's interesting because you don't say have no fear, you just say rise above the fear. So I suppose it's that acknowledgement that you might be afraid and then decide to do something anyway if it all feels right and the numbers stack up. Yeah. So what's it like being Simmone Logue the person and Simmone Logue the brand? Is it hard to reconcile those elements sometimes?
That's a really, really great question, because I think for us, like people that put their names on their brands, it's incredibly personal and it's incredibly emotional. And I wonder how it is going to be for me when one day I decide to retire or go on a different journey, or how it's going to be, because I know that the success of my brand and just every day, the success of my business really does validate who I am, and it shouldn't. Like, I need to work really hard to separate those two, because I am Simmone Logue the person as well, and if I've lost a big deal or had a shit day at work, and I know it's going to impact on my brand, or somebody writes to me and says, there wasn't enough meat in your chunky beef pie, whatever, I just take it so personally. I lose sleep over that shit, And so does that answer that question?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people don't name their business after themselves, but at the same time, you're so proud of it and it is you. So of course you would want to have that identity as well. But yeah, and
Dani, there's really good advantages to it, because I am a person and I have put my name on it. People feel like they trust me. They know that I'm putting the love in really from deep in my heart and my soul. And people write to me from all over the country. They might have eaten a pie on Qantas Airlines. They might have picked up a quiche in, a store in Melbourne or Queensland, or, and they feel they can write to me, and I wake up to letters every morning, and it's really beautiful. And so I suppose there are advantages to that, where people feel, yeah, there's a person behind this brand,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also interesting, that balance between, the footprint on the ground that you mentioned and the scale. I mean, that must be an ongoing tension or trick, there must be trickery in there as well. Like, how do you reconcile that?
That's another really great thing to talk about. Like, this is my biggest job now and moving forward, now that we are working in high volume, to spend time down on the kitchen floor, spend time with my team, spend time in sensory every morning, go in there, taste the beginning of the batch, the middle of the batch, the end, sign it off, but answer all that feedback, good and bad. Every single person that writes to me, I am personally responding. Like I am still fertilizing the land. I'm still putting that footprint. And I think it's vital to keep the wonkiness, keep the artisan. And that this is my biggest challenge and my biggest job that I have moving forward today.
That's so really fascinating. I love it. We've talked so much about business and about your journey, but I feel like we haven't really talked much about the actual food. So let's dig into that. Like, I don't know how you want to tackle it. Like, should we talk about a pie that you might be making for your brother and sister, but then it also might be the pie that you're making for the brand? Like, what are we cooking? How are we getting the love into it? No matter whether we're doing it, for the table at Essington Park or for Qantas.
Oh look, it all starts at home. I am just eat, sleep, breathing food 24/7. I am just soaking it in. Nobody comes into my radar unscathed as far as, so where's your mum and dad from? You're Greek. Oh, your mum a good cook, granny a good cook. Oh, what's her signature dish? Next minute, the plumber's writing down the spanakopita recipe or giving me, granny's mobile telephone number. Like, I am just getting it everywhere that I can. I find Instagram amazing. Like, the kids in my office 5 years ago said, Simmone, we're going to get you on Instagram. I'm like, oh, bloody Instagram. No, I don't have time for that, blah, blah. Anyway, they forced me. Well, I was late for work for a whole year because I'd go on in the morning and go on this amazing journey and end up in some far away place in the world, following some amazing cook, learning a new recipe. Like, I just find it so inspirational. And I'm such a visual junkie that, food to me has to be beautiful as well, And it all starts from home. It all starts from that inspiration that I'm gathering, that I'm just sucking in, ideas. And my siblings, like Andy Logue is my culinary hero. He followed in my footsteps. He's 10 years up. My 20 and I, he's 10 years our junior. He followed in my culinary footsteps, and now I follow in his. And we are, all three of us are always calling each other up every day about, what are you cooking? What's happening? Tell us, swapping recipes. And, and so that's, it does start. It starts on a personal level, and then it transpires into the business. And I think that people can feel it, because it is truly home style. It is truly country. It is food from the heart, which is my tagline. Mm-hmm.
So, Simmone, just let's imagine I'm lucky enough to cop an invite to Essington Park one day. What are you going to make me?
Oh, well, this is the thing. No bugger ever bloody invites me to dinner because they think they have to perform culinary acrobatics, but that is just so not true. And then spare a little bit of, sympathy for me. How do you reckon I feel when I have people coming over? Because I think people have great expectations, and all I really want to do is stuff a chook and throw it in the oven with a whole lot of veggies around it, That is my signature dish, just a beautiful sourdough stuffed roast chook. That's what I do.
Yeah, I'm so there for that. That sounds great. I've loved this conversation. It's inspiring in so many different ways. Simmone, is there anything else that you would like to say?
Oh, I just like to say, everybody, just keep cooking. Keep cooking, keep putting beautiful food on your table. It's food is what brings us all together. sounds corny, I know, but it's so true. It's a language, that is universal. And if you don't have the time, go out and buy Simmone Logue, because it's food from the heart.
Love it. I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's been great to have a chat.
Oh, Dani, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat.deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This